Have you ever felt so alone that you asked for love out of boredom? I was there that afternoon. The sun was high, bright, and harsh. Nothing special was happening, yet something important began. Obina sat outside his family house under the open sky. He kept checking his phone, then dropping it on his lap. No messages, no calls, just silence. I could see it on his face. He was bored, but it was more than that. He was lonely. I sat beside him, watching people pass. Obina sighed and said, "Namdi, this life is dry." He laughed after saying it, but it wasn't real laughter. He told me he had nobody to talk to. All his friends were busy with their own lives. Some had girlfriends. Some had work. Obina had only food, his phone, and long empty days. Not long after, his sister Kayamika walked into the compound. She was holding her phone and smiling at something on the screen. Obina looked at her and called out, "Kayamika." She turned. "What is it?" He hesitated. Then he spoke, his voice low. "Do you have any friend you can link me with?" I pretended not to listen, but I heard everything. Kayamika stopped walking. She looked at him from head to toe. I could see her thinking. She did not laugh. She did not mock him. "Are you serious?" she asked. Obina nodded. "I'm tired of being alone." There was silence. Even the air felt still. Kayamika sat down near us. She said she had a friend called Precious. They chatted often. She was calm and respectful. She asked Obina if he was ready to talk to someone seriously. Obina said yes quickly. Too quickly. Kayamika warned him. "Don't waste her time." He agreed. Right there, in the open daylight, she sent Obina a number. I watched his phone light up. His eyes widened like something new had entered his life. He saved the number. He stared at the name. Precious. Obina smiled. A small, hopeful smile. I didn't say anything, but inside me I felt something shift, because I knew this was not just a number. It was the start of something. I was there as things between Obina and Precious began to grow. It all happened slowly, under clear days, with nothing hidden. Obina started talking to Precious every day. Morning messages, afternoon calls, long chats when the sun was still high. I noticed a change in him. He laughed more. He walked around with his phone in his hand, like it was part of him. One afternoon, I sat with him as he typed. His fingers moved fast. Then they stopped. He looked at the screen for a long time. "What's wrong?" I asked. He showed me the message. Precious had asked for his picture. Obina did not reply. He locked his phone. He wiped his face with his hand. I could see fear in his eyes. Not fear of her words, but fear of being seen. "She doesn't know how I look," he said quietly. I told him to calm down. He nodded, but he didn't send anything. Precious did not get angry. She kept talking to him like nothing was wrong. She asked about his day. She listened. She laughed at his jokes. Slowly, the pressure faded. They started calling more than texting. I could hear Obina's voice change during those calls. He sounded free. Precious liked how he listened. Obina liked how she understood him without pushing. Days passed. Bright days. Simple days. I watched Obina sit outside, smiling into his phone, the sun on his face. I watched him lose himself in conversations that gave him peace. Precious made him feel seen, even without seeing him. At some point, they stopped pretending it was just friendship. They cared. They spoke about feelings, about stress, about life. They gave each other calm in a noisy world. No ruse, no pressure. Obina told me one afternoon, "She gives me peace." I believed him. What they had was real, or at least it felt real. But there was still one thing between them, the picture. And I knew that when that wall finally fell, everything would change. I watched their bond turn into something real. By then, Obina and Precious were no longer pretending. They were dating, even if distance stood between them. Obina became generous in small ways. Not big displays, just steady effort. He sent her airtime, sometimes data. Once in a while, a simple gift delivered during the day. Each time he did it, he would show me the message before sending it, his hands shaking a little. "She will like it," he always said, and she did. Precious grew closer to him. Her replies came faster. Her calls lasted longer. She started checking on him first in the mornings. I could hear it in her voice when she spoke to him. She cared. They shared everything. Stress, laughter, silence. When Obina felt low, Precious calmed him. When Precious felt tired, Obina listened without interrupting. The kind of attachment does not happen by force. It grows. One afternoon, while we sat outside, Obina said something he had never said before. "I want to see her." I turned and looked at him. He looked serious, not scared, just ready. He told me Precious had been saying the same thing. She wanted to meet him. She wanted to stop guessing his expressions and start seeing them. Obina was shy, but love pushed him forward. He talked about where they would meet. He talked about what he would wear. He even laughed at himself, but I could tell his heart was beating fast. That was when I knew this had gone far. Meeting would change everything, for good or bad. The sun was bright that day. Nothing felt dangerous. Yet I felt a quiet tension in my chest, because when voices meet faces, truth has no place to hide. And Obina was finally ready to be seen. The day had finally come. I watched them plan it under the bright sunlight, their voices buzzing with nervous excitement. Obina had suggested she come to his house. Precious agreed, but said she needed to make her hair first. Obina smiled nervously and nodded. I could see his hands shake a little. When Precious arrived, the sun was still high, and the streets around Obina's house were full of people passing by. She walked up slowly, holding her bag, her posture careful and tense. I could see her trying to hide her feelings, but something about her face said she was unsure. She was quiet, almost shy. Obina opened the door before she could knock. He smiled, nervous but hopeful. "Precious," he said, voice soft. She nodded and smiled faintly, though she barely spoke. Her eyes flicked around the house, as if noticing everything for the first time. I stood a few steps behind Obina, watching silently. After a moment, Obina finally asked, "So what do you think about us? About all this?" His voice was gentle, but I could feel the tension in it. Precious hesitated. She looked down at her hands, then back at him. I have mixed feelings," she said quietly. "About everything. I just need some time. I'll give you my answer once I get home and settle down." Obina's face fell slightly, but he nodded slowly. He tried to smile, but it was small, nervous. He didn't say anything else. For a few minutes, they just stood there. The sunlight poured through the open door, bright and ordinary, but the air felt heavy. I could see Obina trying not to let his hope fade, and Precious clearly trying to hide her uncertainty. Then she nodded again, a faint smile, and turned to leave. Obina closed the door behind her slowly, standing in the sunlight, quiet and still. I watched him for a while. His excitement was gone, replaced by something heavier. The kind of weight you feel when reality meets expectation. That day ended without answers, under bright daytime sun, with normal sounds arrow. I was there, silently watching again. By now, Obina had spent the night and morning waiting for a message from Precious. It started with her messaging him first that morning, just a casual hi, but she didn't answer the question she had left him with after their meeting. Her message floated in the sunlight of his small room, and I could see Obina staring at it, restless. Hours passed. Bright sunlight poured through the window, and every notification made him jump. His fingers tapped the phone nervously, over and over, sending small messages to her. "Precious, please, I need to know." She finally replied. Not immediately, not lightly. Her words were careful, measured. I can't continue this relationship," she typed. Obina froze. His heart sank. I watched him, helpless. His hands trembled slightly as he read it. The bright day around him felt heavy. "But what about us? What about the love you had for me?" He typed back quickly, almost begging. Precious answered slowly. Her message was long, her words full of pause, as if she had spoken them in the daylight, trembling. "I think maybe the love was never really love," she admitted. "Maybe it was because of the attention. Because no one has ever given me this kind of care before. I got carried away by it. I liked it. I still do. But I'm not ready to love. I can't give you what you deserve. Not yet. Maybe not ever." Obina didn't respond at first. He just held his phone, staring at the screen, the sun falling across his round face, highlighting every crease of worry. I could see the hope and hurt battling inside him. Then she added more, almost afraid her words would be misunderstood. "It's not about you. It's about me. I have my own fears, my own walls. I don't know how to break them, and I don't want to hurt you. You've given me something beautiful, and I don't want to ruin it by giving you a half-hearted heart. I need to be honest, even if it hurts. I just can't continue. Obina swallowed hard. I could see T. I didn't expect Obina to try again so soon. But he did. That morning, under bright sunlight, he picked up his phone and sent Precious a message. Not casual this time. He wanted answers. He wanted everything clear. Precious, I need to understand. Please, tell me what I did wrong. I want to fix it, he wrote. Minutes later, her reply came. She didn't hide behind vague words anymore. She spoke clearly, calmly, but her words hit him like sunlight through a window, bright, impossible to ignore. You need to work on a few things, she typed. Your dressing, the way you speak, your fitness. These things matter. I might wait, maybe even give you a second chance. But you have to be willing to change, Obina. You need to show me you can do it. Obina's face changed as he read it. Hope mixed with fear. He could feel the weight of her words. But he also felt a spark, a chance to prove himself. Later that day, his sister, Adiz, came over. I could see the frustration on her face. She had found out that Precious had spoken to Obina again. She wanted answers, maybe even to confront her. Precious, what are you doing? Adiz asked, voice sharp under the bright sunlight. Precious didn't flinch. She looked at her clearly, calm and composed. I have told Obina what he needs to do if he wants me back. That's all, she said softly. No anger, no hesitation. Just firm honesty. Adiz frowned, but didn't argue further. Precious had made it clear. The ball was in Obina's court. I watched Obina later that afternoon, sitting outside with the sun on his face. He held his phone, rereading her messages over and over. Her words were harsh, yet hopeful. If he could change, maybe, just maybe, there was still a path forward. The bright day carried normal sounds of the street, birds, and children playing. But for Obina, the world felt charged. It was no longer just about love. It was about effort, respect, and proving that he could be better, not just for her, but for himself too. I knew then, By now, the bright days felt different. Obina kept messaging Precious, trying to keep their conversations like before, but something had changed. She was no longer opening up the way she used to. Her words were short. Her replies came late. Her laughter, once warm and easy, was now polite but distant. I watched him sit outside in the sun, phone in hand, waiting for a message that came slowly, almost reluctantly. He tried to keep the conversation light, asking about her day, telling small jokes, even sending the little gifts he knew she liked. But her responses were short, almost like she was somewhere else. Did she change? He asked me one afternoon, voice quiet. I could see the hope fading in his eyes. She's pulling away, I said honestly. I think she's trying to protect herself, or maybe she's done for now. Obina sighed and leaned back. The sunlight poured over him, bright and ordinary, but inside, he felt heavy. The silence between her messages was louder than any sound. He tried again, one evening, bright and warm. Precious, are we okay? Her reply came hours later. I'm fine, Obina. Don't worry. That was it. Nothing more. He stared at the screen, heart aching. No explanation. No deep conversation. Just distance. Days passed the same way. Obina continued, quietly hoping she would open up again. But Precious had created a wall. She didn't need to be cruel. She was just distant, caring in small ways, but never the way she used to be. I sat beside him one afternoon as he held his phone in his lap. I don't understand, he said softly. We were happy. And now, his voice trailed off. I didn't answer. Some things can't be explained by words. You can only feel them. By the end of the week, it was clear. Precious was still there, in name. But the closeness, the warmth, the easy conversations, they were gone. She had stepped back, leaving Obina with memories of what once was, and the bright daylight around him could not fill the empty space inside. Months had passed. The bright days outside had not changed, but inside Obina, time felt heavy. Every morning, he would pick up his phone, hoping. Every evening, he would put it down, still waiting. Precious had kept her distance, her replies sparse, her tone polite but cold. Yet, somewhere inside, Obina held on to hope. One afternoon, under the bright sunlight that streamed into his room, his phone buzzed. My heart sank just looking at him. He opened the message carefully, as if it might shatter in his hands. It was from Precious. She didn't start with small talk or hesitation. Her words were direct, final. Obinna, I am really done. I don't want anything to do with you. No relationship, no friendship. I can't continue. I watched him. The phone slipped slightly from his hands. His eyes widened. His lips trembled. The bright daylight seemed to grow heavier around him, though outside everything stayed normal. Children playing, neighbors walking by, birds chirping. He sat there silently, staring at the screen. He tried to speak, but no words came. His hope had been crushed, slowly, over months, and now it had broken completely. After a few moments, he whispered to himself, "After all this time, this is it?" I couldn't answer. Some pain has no words. I could see the years of small joys, of laughter and connection, flash across his face. Gone now, in one simple message. Obinna put the phone down on the table. He didn't cry, at least not yet. He just sat there, staring at nothing, sunlight pouring over his round face and shoulders, making him look smaller somehow. The world outside went on in bright daylight. Life carried its ordinary rhythm. But for Obinna, everything had stopped. Precious had ended it completely. No room for hope, no second chances. That day, I realized something about love. Sometimes, even when you wait, even when you hope, some hearts are not meant to stay. And sometimes, the brightest sunlight cannot warm a heart broken by words. Obinna remained quiet. After months of heartbreak, I could see Obinna struggling. He was quiet, spending most of his time indoors, lost in thought. One afternoon, his sister, Adiz, called him out. The sunlight was bright, spilling into their small courtyard. "Obinna," she said firmly, placing her hand on his shoulder. "You can't keep living like this. Focus on yourself. Mentally, spiritually, financially. Build your life. Don't waste time waiting for someone who isn't ready for you." I watched him, surprised. For once, he didn't argue or sigh in frustration. He looked at her, really looked, and nodded. Something shifted in him that day. He started small. He woke up early, read, prayed, and planned. He began creating content online, sharing his thoughts, his small skills, even funny moments from life. At first, it was tough. People barely noticed his videos. Views were low. Comments were few. The bright daylight outside felt ordinary, but inside, he was fighting every doubt. Adi stayed by him, always encouraging. "Don't give up," she said one morning as he stared at the screen, frustrated. "Keep going. Build your life first. Everything else will follow." Obinna listened. Slowly, day by day, he improved. His videos grew better, his confidence increased, and he started earning small amounts from his content. His financial situation improved bit by bit, and his spirit felt lighter. Sometimes he noticed something that made his heart beat a little faster. Precious would come across his videos on Facebook. She didn't reach out. She didn't comment. But her reaction was visible, at least in the small ways Obinna noticed. She would scroll past, muttering quietly to herself, "This guy, he isn't serious with his life." I could see him smile, faintly though. He didn't need her approval anymore. Her judgment didn't hurt him like it used to. He had started to value himself first. The sun shone over his face as he recorded another video. A small, ordinary day, but for him, it was a victory. The here. 3 years had passed. Life had moved forward. Precious had long forgotten the heartbreak she caused Obinna. She had grown, worked on herself, and focused on her own dreams. Bright days came and went, ordinary and busy, and the past with Obinna had become a memory she rarely thought about. One sunny morning, she found herself applying for a fashion design position. She had prepared her portfolio, dressed neatly, and felt confident. The office building stood tall in the daylight, glass reflecting the sun. As she walked in, her heart skipped a beat. And then she saw him. Obinna, not the shy, round boy she once knew, but a strong, confident man standing behind the reception desk, looking authoritative. He had changed. The bright daylight illuminated his firm posture, sharp features, and the aura of someone in control. Precious didn't flinch. She took a deep breath, walked up to him, and handed him her application quietly. Her fingers trembled slightly, but her face was composed. I just want to apologize, she said softly, for everything back then. I hope you can forgive me. Obina looked at her calmly, his expression unreadable. The sun reflected off the office glass behind him, highlighting his composed demeanor. He didn't raise his voice, didn't show emotion, not even a flicker of old feelings. The company will get back to you if your application is approved, he said simply. No apology returned, no acknowledgement of her words beyond the professional. His tone was firm, polite, and final. Precious nodded, a mix of surprise and respect in her eyes. She had expected anger, hurt, maybe a harsh word. But Obina's calm authority told her that the past was truly gone. He had moved on. He had grown. She turned, quietly walked away, holding her portfolio tightly. Outside, the bright sunlight reflected off the street and glass buildings, ordinary and alive. But inside her, she felt the weight of realization. Obina was no longer the boy she had left behind. He had become. 2 weeks had passed since Precious handed in her application. The bright days went by slowly for her, filled with work and anticipation. She tried not to think too much about Obina or the office, but in the back of her mind, the memory of that day lingered. One sunny morning, her phone rang. She picked it up carefully, heart beating a little faster. It was the company. "Hello, Precious," the voice said professionally. "We've reviewed your application, and we'd like to inform you that you are hired." She froze for a moment. Bright daylight spilled through her window, ordinary and calm, but inside, a rush of excitement and relief filled her chest. She smiled, quietly but genuinely, clutching the phone. I watched her from across the room. Her eyes shone with happiness, a mix of accomplishment and disbelief. She had worked hard to move on from the past, to grow, and now an opportunity she had hoped for was finally hers. Meanwhile, I could see Obina's influence in this moment, though indirectly. The company he ran had given her this chance, not because of the past, but because of her talent and persistence. She had faced him, apologized, and now life was giving her her own reward. She let out a small laugh, still holding the phone, and whispered to herself, "I did it, finally." The bright sunlight filled the room, ordinary and warm. But for Precious, the day was extraordinary. She had stepped forward, faced the past, and now was moving into a future she could call her own. Weeks had passed since Precious received the good news. She had settled into her new role, bright daylight filling her office as she organized her designs and plans for upcoming projects. Life had moved on for her, just as it had for Obina. Meanwhile, Obina was at his company, reviewing schedules and overseeing projects. His content creation and leadership had made the office efficient, and the business was thriving. The sunlight streaming through the large windows reflected off polished desks, showing his firm and confident posture. One afternoon, while checking some social media trends for marketing ideas, Obina came across a video. He paused, squinting at the screen. It was Precious, her video showcasing a small fashion project she had done. Her skill, poise, and creativity were evident. He didn't react outwardly. No surpresi, no anger, no warmth. He simply observed, noting her progress. The bright daylight behind him highlighted his composed expression, showing a calm but unmistakable awareness. "She's doing well," I whispered quietly as I stood beside him, watching. "She's really moved on." Obina nodded slightly. "Good for her," he said softly, voice calm and even. "She's putting in work, just like anyone should." For a moment, the office was quiet, filled only with the ordinary hum of work outside and the sunlight pouring in. Precious's success was just another reflection of life moving forward, and Obina's gaze remained steady. There was no bitterness, no longing, just observation and acknowledgement. I realized then that Obina had truly changed. He had grown stronger, calmer, and wiser. He could see the past, the heartbreak, and even Precious's progress without being affected. The sunlight shone on him as he returned to his work, unshaken, focused, and completely in control of his life. And somewhere in the ordinary brightness of that day, I knew both of them were on their own paths, different, separate, but quietly aware of each other. No confrontation, and weeks passed after Precious was hired. She was busy with her fashion projects, designs, and new responsibilities. Bright sunlight filled the office every day, making her workspace feel alive and ordinary. But there was a quiet tension she couldn't shake. One day, a new project came in. The client required collaboration with Obina's company on marketing and logistics. Precious didn't realize it at first. She focused on her work, preparing her designs, sending proposals, and communicating professionally. But then she noticed subtle changes. Emails and video calls from the other company required approval from the top management. She hadn't met the boss personally yet, but the policies, the instructions, and the clear standards reflected someone strong and decisive. One afternoon, she glanced at a notification and realized Obina was overseeing the collaboration. Her heart skipped, not with excitement or fear, but with a strange sense of awareness. She remembered their past, the heartbreak, the apologies, the distance. But now, nothing was personal. Everything was professional. She submitted her designs, making sure every detail was perfect. Sunlight reflected off her workspace, ordinary but filled with focus and determination. She whispered to herself, "I will do my best. This is about me, not the past." Meanwhile, Obina reviewed the project updates. He didn't show any emotion when he saw her work. Her designs were submitted neatly, professionally, and on time. He noted her talent, nothing more. No recognition of their history, no acknowledgement of old feelings, just a professional eye for quality. I watched from a distance as both of them navigated this invisible connection. Bright daylight outside, ordinary office sounds inside, but an invisible thread tied their past to the present. Neither spoke of it, neither acted on it, but the awareness was there, a quiet, almost invisible tension in the air. And in that ordinary, sunlit office, I realized sometimes people grow. Time had passed quietly, bright days filled with ordinary life, but extraordinary growth. Obina's company thrived under his leadership, and he had become a man respected for his focus, calm authority, and integrity. His content creation was also flourishing, giving him recognition and financial independence. Precious had settled into her new role, growing as a designer, gaining confidence and skill. She had moved fully past the heartbreak of the past, building her own success day by day, under bright sunlight and ordinary routines. One afternoon, the two crossed paths indirectly again. A project required both their teams to collaborate. Bright daylight flooded both offices as emails and video calls connected their companies. Precious submitted her work professionally, and Obina reviewed it meticulously. Neither spoke of their shared past. Neither acknowledged it aloud. And yet, there was respect in the silence. Precious realized the boy she had judged years ago had become a man she could admire from afar. Obina, in turn, saw her not as someone who hurt him, but as a capable professional following her own path. I watched quietly as both navigated this invisible connection. Ordinary life carried on outside, sunlight streaming through windows, highlighting the mundane and the meaningful at the same time. There was no confrontation, no emotional drama, just two lives moving forward. In that quiet, ordinary sunlight, I realized something. Heartbreak and mistakes do not define a person. Growth, patience, and focus do. Obina had risen above the pain, building his life steadily. Precious had moved on, finding her own strength and direction. And so, the story ended not with fireworks, tears, or dramatic revelations, but with ordinary, sunlit days, quiet victories, and the knowledge that both of them had become stronger, wiser, and better versions of themselves. Life moved forward, full of bright days, ordinary streets, and extraordinary people quietly making their mark.